what we really need to know at this point is the rainbow effect we keep seeing. Is that some kind of significant representation of someone's change in the timeline, or maybe journey to the live stream in some way? Just unsure at this point on the significance. Because, yeah, what's going on with Cloud? Because we saw when Aerith was killed that Cloud had that rainbow effect around him. Did he change fate? Did he see a different timeline? What? There's got to be some significance to the rainbow, though. Because all that started to show up. Really, with Zack's choices. The differences.
Aerith. Wake up.
I still feel like she's definitely dead. But it's a question of, like, what is Cloud seeing? The live stream? Or something being manipulated by Sephiroth? Something in between? Or he's just trying to cope with the situation, an alternate world? There's several options here. Several options with what he could be seeing there.
Can't stay here forever. We'd best get moving.
Yep. Sounds good.
I'm going with manipulation by Sephiroth.
I'll see you off.
Because that was the similar sound effect you have when Sephiroth's trying to influence Cloud. That's what I'm feeling there.
Tifa. Come on.
There's also the question of, is the white materia glowing green? Yeah, I feel it's going to go with the route of the grief that Cloud feels is going to be manipulated by Sephiroth.
I have to admit, you were quite the man.
Who, me? I guess not. Anyway, you haven't seen Viceroy Saruf, have you? He failed to show at an important event. Made us look like fools.
Maybe he wouldn't have, if you'd spent some money on that set.
Ah, you're probably right. Rich kids do like things just so. Still got results, though, even without him. Resistance elements are more fired up than ever.
You know, Glenn, I'm on to you. This war's nothing but a ploy to distract me from Sephiroth.
How very astute. Regardless, the plan is already in motion. Our promised land will become reality. A father's dream, accomplished by his son.
I want the real thing, not some imitation.
But an imitation's all you deserve. In the back, just like old times.
Huh. Need to learn more about his backstory, don't I? His connection to Sephiroth, for example. That's also a question. Does Sephiroth definitely have the black materia now? Because if he does, the weapon should be unleashed. Like the ones we know. Okay, Zack's still somewhere then.
Did I? Nah, I couldn't have dreamt that. It all felt way too real. Just as worlds unite, so too do they part. But who's to say they can't unite again?
But why did they unite in the first place? Nibelheim the next day. Reunion. I'm assuming they're all heading for the northern crater. Somehow. You're really singing the Final Fantasy theme, Cloud, at this point in time?
Can you not raise it just a wee bit higher?
Screw you, cat. How's this?
Question is he looking at, like, the black materia or the clear materia? It looked like one and then the other then.
Oh, shit.
Nice catch.
So, what Aerith actually do anyway?
Oh, my.
Yeah.
And with that, we are cleared for takeoff.
Finally.
It's not fair.
Aerith?
Okay, so she's there in some regard. But I'm wondering if it's the clear materia is memories of her. It's helping him see her? Oh, there we go. That's definitely the black one.
The hell? The reunion.
Hey, you coming or what?
Yeah, one sec.
You have to promise not to look up.
Don't look up.
Well, now I gotta look.
Fine, but don't let it get to you.
Don't let what get to me?
It's not real. Just an illusion. Now let's go get Sephiroth. He's hiding up north.
North?
Trust me, he is. Soldier's intuition.
Oh, yeah? Better hope you're right.
Alright, fine. We trust you. Just remember, we got everything riding on this. And that's a load you'd best be ready to carry.
No heavy loads. We're close to capacity as it is.
Don't worry about me. I can handle it.
Take care.
You gonna be okay getting back?
And if I said I wasn't? Don't worry. It's like a second home.
I guess. But what if something happens?
Then I'll send up smoke.
Thanks. I'll keep an eye out.
I'll put everything I've got into my prayers. I'll stop the meteor. And I'll leave the rest to you. Good luck.
Aerith. I will stop Sephiroth. Trust me.
You promise?
Promise.
Ooh. There's so many different ways this could be taken. So many different ways. And I'm going more with the clouds kinda broken at this point. I feel like there's a mix between him actually seeing Aerith in the live stream, her presence.
Goodbye.
Ooh, no promises await at Journey's End? Oh, why wait? Not to be continued. No promises await at Journey's End. Yeah, I feel there's two things going on there. I don't think it's as simple as like, all right, yeah, it's just Aerith saying goodbye. It's like, it's gonna be a case of Cloud can see Aerith, probably because of the clear materia. The idea of memories, knowledge being put into materia, that's how materia operates. But at the same time, he still has S cells. There's no way of putting that. He still has S cells. He's gonna be manipulated by Sephiroth. That is worrying where the story could go there in different directions. But he does seem to be very, very kind of like how he was in a weird way after Zack's death. It's almost like he's rewriting events to just try and cope with the situations that are in front of him, which is going to lead to some very interesting aspects in regard to what happened in Mediel in the original game. The idea that he finally realizes what's going on. He explores his own memories and realizes, oh, I wasn't in Soldier. Oh, Zack died. I mean, he knows he died, but he'll understand the circumstances. At that point, it's probably going to hit him and probably he'll understand, oh yeah, Aerith is dead. Like, those aspects, they're going to be a key thing. So, right. I think now we got the theory crafting bit out of the way there. Very much thinking about how the rainbow effect towards the end, I feel, is going to be something significant we see in the third game. It is kind of leading me into my thoughts on how I'm going to look at the game. Like, what am I thinking, like, looking back across the game? Was it good? Was it bad? Is there stuff I liked, didn't like? Let's get into that bit now. So, things I'd say I didn't like or I questioned. I think we'll start there, really. Very early on, like the grasslands area, I felt it started a bit too heavy on the mini games and the side stuff. Like, it just felt a bit too early. Like I mentioned at the start of the game, the idea is you're coming from Remake, they've just learnt the end of the world is going to happen, they need to chase down Sephiroth, let's go do some mini games, let's go do some side stuff. It didn't feel right at that point. What I feel like they should have done is just kept it a bit tighter at the beginning. Like, come from Calm, go get the Chocobo, head through the mines, get to Junon, and then from Junon you get to Costa del Sol. And then it starts opening up. Then you get the regions. Then you get the option to go back. Because then the story starts to change from, we need to find Sephiroth, to, we haven't really got any leads. We're following this idea of following the robed guys, but we're not really sure where to go. We've got some idea. That would make more sense where it's like, we're trying to figure out where to go. This is the time we branch out and start doing other things and learn more things to try and understand the situation so then we can find Sephiroth. That would make sense in that regard. I just feel like the pacing towards the start of the game was a bit off slightly where we left Remake. Still fun, it's just I feel like that should have opened up later rather than at the start. That just felt slightly wrong there to me, slightly wrong. So, the Whispers though. There I'm not entirely sure how I feel at this point. Kinda need to see the third game before I finalize my thoughts on the Whispers, but at the moment, I kinda see them as unused potential. Oddly enough, they just seem to be there in events, rather than actually causing any substantial change to the story, which is honestly disappointing, because at the end of Remake, I was very much thinking, oh, you could go in so many different directions with the stories now. There's so many potential options you could do here. You could potentially explore the concept of, what if Aerith survived? What if she lived? This could be really cool because the future is unknown now. There is no fate. There is no destiny. What will happen? Who knows? And at the end of Rebirth, we've essentially still got the same story. Which is kind of... Why even have the Whispers at all if you're not really going to change the story all that much? What's the point? What are they adding to the story from the original Final Fantasy VII? That's how I feel about them right now. What are they actually adding to the story? It doesn't seem like they've added anything. Just slightly moved events around slightly. That's it, but nothing's really changed. Aerith's still dead. Cloud's still confused. We're still taking the Black Materia to Sephiroth. All the events seem to be pretty much proceeding as they would. It's that case of what would be different if we had a Final Fantasy VII remake completely remade, where it was expanded. We had stuff like a war with Wutai. We had all the extra stuff, the side events that we've had throughout the games. At this point, the Cisne stuff, the Gongaga region. What would change if we had all that, but without the Whispers? And it wouldn't really be that different of a story. So then you have to ask yourself, what's the point of the Whispers then? Why even have them as part of the story? What are they adding to the story? That's what it leaves me with. It's like, I love all this expanded stuff. Absolutely love it. But we've got the Whispers there for some reason to explain why we've got this extra stuff. We don't need the explanation. We just need the extra stuff. But I do think it's worth just waiting to see what happens in the third game. To see how that plays out with the Whispers at this point. But yeah, it leaves me with that question of why? Why are you here? Why are you present in the story? What are you adding? That's how I feel at this point. Because it is a question. It is a question. What are you adding? Question mark. Because I don't know at this point. I don't know. The Aerith scene, the significant one, you know, where she died, that was obviously a very impactful moment in the original Final Fantasy VII. And now it's got a different significance to do with the Cloud story and where that's going with Cloud, because he isn't aware that Aerith is dead. What does that mean for the story going forward? That could be interesting in itself. I think it would have been hard for them to somehow make the Aerith event significant on the level it was originally, because it's such a well-known event in gaming. It is one of those moments where it's like, you probably wouldn't be able to do it justice. You need to change it. You need to make it something else, which is why I thought maybe with the Whispers situation, they were going to go the route of keeping her alive. That would shock people. That would be an interesting story to tell. That's where I thought they were potentially going. That's where I thought it could go. But no, they've gone in this different route now, which again leaves us with that aspect of we need to see what happens in the third game to see if what they're up to is a very, very interesting story. I do hope it is. I do hope it is. But yeah, that's how I'm feeling on the story at the moment. It's left me with several questions as to where they're potentially taking the story. Because at the moment, it's got some very confusing elements. Like Zack's story, that was odd in itself as well, I'd say. I honestly feel like we should have had more time with Zack. I feel like these 5-10 minute scenes we had throughout weren't enough. We should have had Zack chapters. Like say when Cloud goes to sleep, we have like a good hour-long chapter of Zack exploring his story, what's he up to, advancing the story there to understand these other worlds that were going on, because there was several, as we saw towards the end, there was several. And that would have been far more interesting than what we got, I feel, to properly explore Zack's story, maybe even Big's story. That would have been interesting in itself. Right. I think we've like sorted out like the things I question right now. So let's have a look at the things I think were good throughout this. Obviously, I like some of the expanded story stuff. Absolutely love that. I actually love all the mini games. Absolutely love them. The pacing, like I said, just felt off in terms of where they placed them. But I very, very, very much did like how they maintained the silliness of the original Final Fantasy VII. The original game, sure, was a look at the idea of depression and how it could affect you, the feeling of loss and the significance of that on someone's life. Completely a factor in the original game, but it was also extremely silly. It was very, very silly, very, very stupid at times. It was so enjoyable because of that, and they maintained that. They maintained that here, and I absolutely adore the fact they did that. Absolutely adore that fact, because there was some really, really funny, stupid moments in this that were just fantastic. Like when we arrived at Cold Saucer, it was like, what is going on? It's awesome, but what is going on? That's just great. That's just great. I really, really did enjoy the silliness of this. I adore the fact that they added Cissnei into this story somewhere, and the fact she was in Gungaga, it's like, well, of course she's in Gungaga, because that is something I really wanted to know. After the events of Crisis Core, what did Cissnei do? Because we know Elena turned up. So where did Cissnei go? It's like, oh, that's where she went. That makes perfect sense. She went off to Gungaga. Oh, thank you. Thank you for that. That's something I really like. The choice in music during the Cissnei and Zack scenes, loved it. Absolutely loved the choice in music. The music throughout the game has been fantastic. There's even some touches of other Final Fantasies here and there, if you've noticed at all, which is interesting in a way. Like that could lead to some implications. I loved Gilgamesh. Like, of course Gilgamesh is here. Gilgamesh, he traverses the multiverse of Final Fantasy all over the place. He's appeared in several locations. He's the same one every time, in case you're wondering. It's the same Gilgamesh every time. That's why he makes references to other Final Fantasies when he's talking about them. Especially Bart's. He's after Bart's, isn't he? Yes. Yes. I do like the idea of the regions as well, though. Like, each one has its own significant thing. I like the idea of the chocobos for each region, and I suppose the buggy, having different aspects of the chocobos that you had from the original game. Although, even though I'm looking at the good aspects right now, I just want to mention, like, some of that actually felt annoying at times, though. Like the Gungaga region, trying to get around the Gungaga region with the chocobo. Oh dear. Oh dear, the bouncing on the mushrooms, it was not a fun way to traverse Gungaga. I'll say that, yeah. And how slow the climbing up walls chocobo was. When it was climbing up walls, it was like, come on, go faster, go faster. But I did enjoy the jet stream one in Nibelheim. I did enjoy that. We didn't really have much of, well, not Nibelheim, in the Nibel region. Yeah, we didn't really have much of that in the Nibel region because the Nibel region was small by comparison to the others. Yeah, but I did like that they brought in those aspects from the original game with the different traits of the different chocobos. That was a nice way to bring that in. I do like some of the story adjustments, is the best way of putting it, with Cloud. I was questioning it at first in terms of that idea of, like, they've moved the story away from being about his coping mechanism with Zack's death and focused it more on what happened to him in terms of the Sephiroth situation, the S-cells, the experiments that were done to him, which you may have noticed Hojo kept mentioning how his brothers were part of the reunion and all that kind of stuff. It's interesting how they've pushed the story more in that direction as opposed to him breaking because of Zack's death. Again, at first I was sort of like, I don't know, that could fundamentally change some aspects of the story in terms of its feeling, but then it showed later, no, they had a plan for that. When we got to the trials in the Temple of the Ancients and showing all these characters and their loss in some way, some pain they went through, that in itself was interesting and brought forth those kinds of emotions, that kind of storytelling, the idea of the pain from what they've lost being present. It was still there in a different form, especially with Aerith's speech after that. I absolutely loved the Hall of Resurrections. That was the name of it, wasn't it? You know the one I'm on about, the trials they went through. I loved that aspect, and I loved Aerith's speech after that. It felt very, very Final Fantasy VII. That's how it felt. It just hit all the right notes for me at the right point there. Just fantastic. Fantastic. So, I pretty much turn it over to you now, because I feel like I've presented all my thoughts there. On the story, mainly. Like, gameplay-wise, yeah, gameplay. Gameplay, I'd say... I kind of wish we had a way to have a tank-based character. Someone who draws all the attention, so you can use some of the other characters without having to worry about being targeted by the enemy, because it felt so odd so many times where I've just switched over to someone else and then the enemy targets me. It's like, but I went over to them because you were targeting them, and I switched over to, say, like Aerith to build up her ATB so that I could use her skills, but now I'm having to keep dodging and dodging and dodging because the enemy is targeting me now. There seems to be no threat generation, basically. It would be nice if, say, I was attacking as Cloud for quite a while. That would keep the attention of the enemy on Cloud for a significant time while I went off to someone else and did different attacks based on who they were, if I was behind them in a different position, something like that. It just felt odd in that way that I couldn't do that. I tried. Even threw out the provoke material at times to see if that would work, and it didn't feel right to me. There's just something off about that. Could have been something I was missing, but I don't know, it just felt wrong in that regard. Yeah. Other than that, gameplay's fine. Absolutely love the gameplay other than that. Absolutely love it. Just wish I could switch around more without any issues. Yeah. So, what are your thoughts on the game? How do you feel about the story? What's your theory crafting? I'd like to hear your thoughts and feelings on this now. Because I'd very much like to just take my time with my thoughts about this game. Because obviously Final Fantasy VII is a significant game for me in terms of how I came about loving RPGs. It was my first RPG. My mum bought me this game. So it's very significant to me, especially with what happened last year in regards to my mum passing away. It's such a significant game for me. Especially with that demon wall. That demon wall is still significant today in my head. That damn demon wall. It's the one that started me off towards just grinding for levels. It's the one I remember. That damn demon wall. And then there was two of them. Two of them. Oh dear. Oh dear, oh dear. So yeah. What are your thoughts? What are your feelings? Theories. Definitely want those theories. Definitely want them there. I want to see what we can think about here. What's the rainbow? What are you thinking the rainbow effect is? Because that kept coming up towards the end. When choices were being made, when there was different timelines, different things being seen. Like, what is the significance of that? I'm hoping we get to see what that is going forward. Because we need to know. What's going on with Zack? Like, what was that about? Just so many questions it's left us with at this point. It really has. But yeah, I'd say I enjoyed the game. Is it perfect? No. Could they have done things differently? Yeah, they could have. But I'm happy with what we got, with it being a sequel. I'd still want a completely normal remake of Final Fantasy VII at this point. That's the only issue. It's like, I'd like this and a completely straight up remake of Final Fantasy VII. I'd like both. Yeah. Yeah. One thing I do need to check, though, after I finished up here is people did say the chapter select does allow me to go back and choose different characters and see what happened with the different party members over at Gold Saucer. So there will be several more parts coming after this, assuming we've not got a post-credit scene. You know, there may be more for all I know. There may be more. There may be another chapter. I doubt it, though. I doubt it at this point. But there may be DLC, actually. Yeah, there could be DLC. There could be another chapter or another character that's part of some DLC in future. We had it with Yuffie. We could have a Sid chapter. That would actually be interesting. We could have a Sid chapter. Like, what was he up to before we met him? What was Vincent up to? Vincent's a possibility as well, like certain events throughout the story. What was he doing? We could fill in the blanks there with DLC. That could be a thing in itself. Just don't know at this point. Just don't know. But yeah, expect a few more parts coming up after this, where we explore what happened with the other party members in Gold Saucer. But that's me done for now. I hope you enjoyed it. I hope we see you around in future. But from me, that's us done for now. Thank you very much for watching. Ta-ta for now.